Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Got another one. You may have seen my other videos. I have a XL125S here that's my daughter's bike. It's a 1981 model, and my wife expressed an interest in learning how to ride a dirt bike, so I bought her one. This is a 79 Honda XL125S. It's in really good shape. Bought it from a friend of mine, and it's an old bike. It's got its character, but it's a good bike. It's in good shape. These things are hard to kill. But we're gonna do valve set this morning. Just tinker here and there. I mean, they took care of it. It's well maintained. We're just gonna set the valves because I don't think he's ever done it. We're gonna go through that, and it's got to be done when the engine's cold. So I haven't fired it up today or anything, so it's cold in here. Furnace is firing up right now, so let me get some tools gathered, and we're gonna pull the seat off, the gas tank off, to get to the intake side adjuster port. The exhaust side is right here. Great big plugs, easy to get to, but it's not quite easy to get the feeler blade in there. But we'll get started on it anyways, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's get those seat bolts out of there. Should be a couple of 12s back here. One on each side. This one doesn't need to come all the way out because it's got a slot in it. But it's out, so it'll stay out. Any surprises? Nope. There's a little document compartment underneath the seat, which is empty, but that's fine. So interestingly enough, the 79 does not have a battery. The 81 had a battery under the other side plate. This one doesn't use a battery. It's got a big muffler chamber there. Let's pull a side plate off anyways. We're gonna check that air filter, make sure everything's golden in there. Make sure there's no rodents in there. Like I said, the previous owner actually maintained it pretty well. It's got a functioning speedometer. It's got 8,800 kilometers on it. The 81 has 3,600. Oh, look at that. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I thought so. Thought we might get some residents in there. Yeah. I'm gonna take a quick picture of that. Show the previous owner. Yep. Interesting. That's a lot. Oh, we better get that out of there. You can still get quite a few parts for this bike. Of course, some of them are discontinued. Just can't get them easily anymore. Well, that's going to need some penetrating oil and some pliers. Of course, we don't have to do this right now. There we go. I'm gonna see if I can find a uni or some other type of filter for that. The foam is missing. So inside here is a metal screen, and it's just a foam on the outside, and a bunch of the foam is missing. Well, I'm sure it became a house. You know what? I think a Briggs & Stratton one might actually work on there. We'll see what happens when we get there. So at this point, we need to take one more bolt out of here, 10 millimeter. the back tab of the gas tank. We'll need to get that fuel line off. Fuel valve is off. Fuel petcock. Needle nose pliers maybe. Gently. I don't think there's going to be a gently. Rubber is pretty hard. May end up having to replace that hose. Well, it moved. There we go. A couple drips. The vent tube, that'll get new because it's hard as a rock. And this should slide off. There we go. That's full to the brim. Now we have easier access to this rear cover here. Never had the seat off. I just got the bike here, so I'm just doing a quick eyeball at everything around while I'm in here. There's our choke cable. Everything looks pretty good. I've already cracked this one loose. These get very tight. Helps usually put a little drop of oil on the O-ring when you assemble them together. A little O-ring on the base of the thing here, of the cap. Okay. Well, nothing too crazy surprising in there. Looks okay. See if we can get the rear one cracked. It's right at the backbone of the bike, on the main frame. Can't get the box end in there. Let's hope that the open end breaks it free. There we go. Don't want to strip them. Actually, I think I have one of these in stock, brand new. These plugs, these two caps plugs up here are the same as the oil filter, the oil screen plug. I think they're also the same as some of the quads too. I got a couple of 450 Honda quads, and I think those use the same caps. Unless you get tight, gotta go to the other side. Can't get under the backbone anymore. Lots more room over here. But there's not a lot of room to get a feeler blade in there. These tiny little valves. Probably pull the plug out too, because it's make it easier to turn the engine over. That cap's off. Oh, nice and clean in the top end. I think it was siliconed. I think it was. Well, let's pull the plug out of there. Just makes it easier to turn the engine over. I think our spec is 5 thou on intake and exhaust. I'll have to double check that, but I think that's it. I'll check the manual shortly. I think we're also going to be pulling this carburetor off. It idles kind of funny. Well, the plug's pretty dark. It's a new plug, but it's dark. So I think it's running a little rich. DR8ES. Nope, don't have the same one as that. I'll probably just clean it, gap it, and throw it back in. I shine a little light down on top of the pistone. It's a little carbony. Not seeing any scratches or anything on the bore. Of course, I can't see like the entire bore. All I can see is just basically on top and the side of the piston. I can see the edge of I can see the very edge of the exhaust valve, and the seating surface is nice and clean. There's no pits in it. That's good. That's good. All right, let me consult the manual to see what the specs are. I'm just going to crank it here until the exhaust valve is down. There, it's down, so the intake should be up. I think we got excessive play there. But again, I'll have to measure it. Just by feel, so now I'm going to crank it till the intake valve is, or sorry, the exhaust valve is down. Oh, missed it. I had them reversed there. Okay, now the exhaust valve is down. That's the front one. And the intake, there's no play in the intake valve. Nonezo. That'll give it a weird uneven idle. I'm doing it with a Kickstarter, which is very crude. I'm not feeling any play on the intake valve. None at all. Excessive in the front and none in the back. Well, that might change the way this thing runs. Okay, so I'm going to consult the manual. I'm going to find out what our specs are, and I'll probably time it exactly the way they say, which is you got to take this plug out, take this plug out. This plug allows you to turn the crankshaft nice and easily with a ratchet. You just put a socket on the nut, and this one here will be where your timing marks show up. So it'll tell you what to align. You crank the engine over to a certain point until the timing mark lines up with a little tab or a locator inside on the case, and that is the point where you set your valves. So to do it the other way, like I was doing, turn the engine over till one valve is all the way down, that pretty well guarantees the other one is all the way up. So I'm just doing it by feel just to check, see where we're starting at, but I'll time it properly according to the manual, which I gotta find and read. Be right back. Okay, so I've got the engine timed to top dead center on the squish stroke. This plug doesn't want to come out, but I got the timing indicator plug out, and I got the engine turned over. Piston's at the top, and the T on the alternator housing is lined up with the mark in the case, so we're at top dead center on the compression stroke. So spec is 2 thou, not 5. I read it before, it's actually 0.05 millimeters or whatever, but it's 2 thous on intake and exhaust on this engine. And I've got my fancy, previously enjoyed feeler blade that I bent to get in the last one I did. So let's slide it in that exhaust one. And you can probably park a bus in there. So we're gonna need to adjust that. We're gonna loosen a little locking nut. There's a little nut on there. We're gonna loosen that 10 millimeter nut, and we're just gonna turn a little screw down until we get roughly our 2 thou. You guys can't see. And it's useless for me to try and get the camera over here. Feeler blades could be better. These are kind of a weird one to adjust. They're very coarse threads. So tiny movements actually will tighten things up or loosen them up. That doesn't feel too bad. But things change when you tighten the nut up. I should be holding that screw in the center. Well, let's just see what happens. If I have to readjust it, I'll readjust it. No big deal. It's like right there. Perfect. I'm going to leave that as it is. Yep, the final torque on the nut made it perfect. That's 2 thou. So we took a lot of clearance out of that one. Now check the back one here, which is your intake valve. Hoist is actually a little too high. Oh, it won't even fit in there. That's too tight. Too tight! So let's crack the jam nut down. Crack it loose. Too tight is it's going to hold the valve open. And then when things heat up, the clearance goes away. So it's even going to hold it open more. So I'll just crack it loose a little. I just barely loosened that lock nut, just enough that I can get the screw to turn. Nope, needs a little bit more. Needs a little bit more. Wow, that was actually pretty tight. Still can't feel any clearance in it. So microscopic adjustment on the front rocker, and back here I've got it basically a quarter turn and it's still not, no clearance. There, finally got some clearance. Probably too much now. Get in there. Yep, too much clearance. It's hard to determine the tension on the feeler blade when it's down bent on an angle like that. Because you want just like a slip fit. It wants to be just tension on it. That's not enough because it slid right in there too easy. Okay, so it's just snug. I'll leave the feeler blade in. I'm going to snug the adjusting nut or the locking nut down. Oh, it's a little too much tension. Fidgety thing. Just crack the screw just... Oh, that's too tight. Just want to get a hair of a turn on that screw. If it's a little too loose, they'll tick. Tick, 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 tick. But too tight is actually really bad. You can burn things like that, burn valves out. Oh, there we go. I feel some clearance there. Check it with the feeler blade. Nope, too tight still. Of course, this is the most awkward one to get to. Oh, it does not want to turn. I'm trying to use the lock nut to keep tension on the screw so it can only turn a tiny little bit. Like we're talking tiny, tiny movements here to get this clearance. Oh, that's darn near perfect right there. I dare say that's perfect. Feels the same as the front. Feeler blade just slides in. I think we're golden. Well, it's about time. So that should change the way it runs a little bit. It's got a weird, like I said, it's got a weird idle thing. It'll idle real slow and then it's kind of up and down and it's all over the place. Just not a nice steady idle. But again, that could be carburation. So, I think we're going to pull the carb off anyways. Get on there. There we go. There's not a lot of room to work in there. And yes, it's silicone on the threads of these caps. Even though there's an O-ring under them, that O-ring goes flat over time and it'll leak. And somebody put silicone on the threads over the last 42 years at some point. That's fine. Not gonna hurt nothing. Just can't run the cap down by your fingers. And it doesn't have to be that stupid tight either because it'll actually break the flange off that cap. So, that's that. The clearances are set, the lock nuts are locked. I'm gonna clean that plug and put it back in. Like I said, it's a new plug, it's just running rich. So we'll jump into that carburetor anyways. I don't think it'll be too bad. But, you know, I could have a little pilot circuit that's not 100%. I'll do that and then, yeah, I'll clean the plug, put it back in, and then we'll start taking that carburetor off. Okay, so I got some stuff done. I got the carburetor off, took it apart. There was a tiny little blockage maybe in the pilot jet, but I cleaned it out. The rest of the carb is in perfect shape. It's all adjusted the way it should be for now. I did not have a foam for that air filter. I'm gonna have to pick one up, but I'll just throw it back in there for now temporarily, and yeah, we'll just keep going. So I did get it blown out, so there's no goopy stuff in there, no rubbish. Let's get that wing nut back on there. We can get our side cover back on. Here we go. Yeah, should be all good in there. There we go. I need my screws. 3 screws. We gotta get our tank and seat back on. Yeah, that carb wasn't too bad. It had a funky idle, and I think that funky idle was due to the intake valve being so tight. That's what I'm going with anyway. All right, let's slide that tank back on there. Where's our gazintas? Oh, they're there. A little wiggle and a push. On she goes. Sits on a rubber mount back here. So this is essentially it's a street motorcycle that is capable of trail riding, so that's good and on. She's got a dent. Hopefully I can get that pushed out. Fuel line's still in decent shape, so we'll just leave that go. I did check the fuel line, it was fine. I checked float level, and that was fine. Let's turn her on and see if everything overflows. We'll find out if there's a puddle under the bike in a second. Let's get that seat back on there. Interesting little thing here. It's a little document pouch. Nothing in it, but it's there. Get under there. Come on now. Just go where you belong. What are you doing to me here? There we go. Oh, that was easy. Fell right in. Let's get the 10 M&M off of there. We got our 12 back on. We got our seat bolts back in. So this one also holds the muffler up. Good and snug. Good and snug. That's that. It's got a hole in the muffler. I'm not concerned with it. It's actually not very loud for having a hole in the muffler. It's not crazy bad, so I'm not worried about it too much. Just gonna pop that back on there. Do I wanna? No, I don't wanna. I don't like it. I don't like it. Let's get some other line on there. It's way too small, that little stuff. So let's give her that much. Cutters. It's just a vent. Got some fur on it now. I might need to wrap a little wire around that or clamp or something. There we go. What's that you say? Zip tie? Okay. Okay. We can do that. For now. Okay. Easy. Easy. There we go. You guys said it. You guys are the ones who wanted zip tie. Okay, good enough for now. I'll figure out a wire later. Oh, that's on there. She's good and secure. Yeah, it's got a little dent here. It's got a small kink. I might be able to get a rod in from the inside and give her a push. Maybe. Later. I'm not seeing a oil spill or a, fuel spill underneath the bike, so that's a good thing. I have some pressure washing to do. Maybe I'll pressure wash this thing today. Get some of the mud and goop out of it. But let's get her down. Give her a couple of kicks. See how it sounds. Down. You guys still see? Oh, yeah, you can see the top of it. Get you a bit zoomed out, maybe. All right, let's see how she runs. I mean, I ran before. Number one rule being a mechanic is don't make it worse. You don't want to drive them in and push them out. Okay, so fuel is on. Key is on. Choke is on. Okay. Let's see. There we go. I may need to adjust that idle. Choke is off. Runs pretty good, actually. Nice. I'll grab my tack and check that idle speed. It's supposed to be about 1400 or so. That's what the book says anyways. That's actually low. It's supposed to be a little more than that. high. I don't want 1400. 1200. 1200. Sounds good, actually. It's nice. Oh, God, let's get the door open. Doesn't run as rich as it was. I think the pilot screw was out 3.5 turns, so I'm gonna take it for a little ride in the backyard. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we got it all sorted. The weird idle, I'm going to attribute to the intake valve that was too tight. As it warmed up, the valve was getting held open more and more and more. So what would happen was it would fire up and idle okay when it was cold. But it would, a little stumbly, so you'd turn the idle screw up and then, sorry, it was revving too fast when it was cold, so you'd turn the idle screw down, and as it warmed up, it would start to idle slower and slower and slower, and so you keep turning the idle screw up. So anyways, what it was is that what I feel is the intake valve was getting held open farther and farther the more it warmed up, and it was causing an idle to change, actually. But that's all fixed up. That thing idles beautiful now. Spec says 1400 RPM. I got it set at 12 because it sounds better. 14's fast. 12 is good. Good enough. Did give it a quick wash while I was out there with the pressure washer. I had to wash another tractor, so might as well wash this too. I didn't do a detail or anything. I just gave her a good spray with a pressure washer, and that's all set. Still need to get a foam wrap for that air filter. I'm just gonna probably get a Briggs & Stratton one because they're cheap. I'll just make something work on there. And last thing I got to do is I got to try and convert this to a right-hand clutch lever on the right-hand side. We'll see how that works. I'm going to try it myself first to see if the throttle and the clutch can be operated from the same hand. I've never done it, so we're going to find out. But because it's a street bike, all these electrical wires and everything got to be pulled tight, and everything's got to slide off the end of the bars. Got to get the grips off, and because these don't just clamshell in two pieces, your brake and your clutch perch. Actually, you got to loosen a pinch bolt and they slide off. So they got to come all the way off the end. So I'm not going to do that on camera. It's an experiment. I'm just going to monkey with it and see what happens. But we're going to close this video off here. Thanks for joining me, guys, in this video. It wasn't very informative. It's just what I'm doing in the shop right now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And leave me a comment down below. I like it when I get comments, interaction with the viewers. And until the next one, take care.